Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. I think, I think that after all these good presentations during this morning, I'm afraid that I'm going to deceive you with mine. But anyway, the purpose of this presentation is to show the methodological approach to the economic impact of the Vespa velutina. And I'm going to talk about the methods that we use in our work at the Atlantic Positive project. And the first results are going to be shown by my colleague Marian Ferreira tomorrow in the morning. The Vespa velutina is seen in Europe as an enemy of honeybees, and damages on fruit production have been reported as well. There's a little data about the economic impact of Vespa velutina over those activities, in part because it is difficult to disentangle the causes of colony losses. For example, Vespa velutina, weather, insecticides, disease, parasites, etc. But that's true that recent studies have focused on the costs of the fight because of this difficult to value damages and losses. Why we want to measure the economic impact? Well, I think that first of all it's because we need to make visible the dimension of losses. We know, we are aware about the importance in ecological, economic and social terms of this invasion, but we have to make it visible. For example, comparing with other costs. Another answer to this question will be because governments are intended to develop plans against Vespa velutina, as it is an invasive species. And the economic resources dedicated to these plans should be spent efficiently. Then the interest of calculating costs is to know if we is comparing them with the possible benefits of these governmental plans, and to search for an optimal level of resources dedicated to this. And finally, we want to measure the economic impact because beekeepers and other producers are dedicating resources, time and money to the fight against the Asian hornet. They should have interest in calculating if their efforts are balanced with the benefits they will obtain. The method that we use to use the method that normally we use in economy to evaluate these economic impacts are the cost-benefit approach. The cost-benefit approach consists in comparing the benefits obtained by an action with the cost that it entails. And this approach can be adopted for example, the assessment of the efficiency of a certain policy. For instance, a national strategy against Vespa, comparing the costs of implementing the different measures and the benefits obtained. We are going to evaluate the benefits with the through the cost we are going to avoid with the plan or with the efforts that we are going to make. We need to, or we can, to use this approach as well to assess the efficiency of each method of fight. In this case, instead to call it the cost-benefit approach, we call it the cost efficiency approach. And there we are going to compare the costs of the implementation of different methods with the benefits obtained. For that, we need, for doing that, we need the information about the effectiveness of each method. Before to assess or to evaluate the costs, we need to identify them. And we can use different approaches to identify these costs. For example, we can distinguish between the we can distinguish the person or the organization that is going to burden these costs. In this case, we can distinguish between costs burdened by administrations, costs burdened by producers, costs burdened by workers or people or general people. I'm thinking on the costs supported by people when the Vespa beats the people, and costs burdened by the environment. This last will be a long run costs, and some of these costs have been reported this morning by the different speakers. For example, for costs burdened by workers, we detected this kind of damages among people working at the forest sector or the agricultural sector when removing nests. To making the account of these costs, we can use this classification. And other works in the literature have defined these different issues. Costs derived from losses and damages, costs derived from the fight against the Vespa velutina, and costs related to the prevention of the invasion. The total cost will be the sum of these three issues. What we wanted to measure in the Atlantic Positive project. Well, this project is intended to assess the economic impact on beekeepers, only on beekeepers, across various regions of Europe. Galicia, here in Spain, and the Basque Country, the region of North Portugal, and the Nouvelle-Aquitaine in France. The economic impact may be measured through the monetary valuation of reported damages, plus the cost of efforts made to prevent and to fight against the Asian hornet. It means the sum of the three issues we seen before. For example, costs derived from losses and damages will be losses of production, losses of colonies, as the Fabrice showed to us before. And costs derived from the fight against Vespa velutina, like bait trapping, nest destruction, changes on honeybees, management, etc. And costs related to the prevention of invasion like training courses, search of information, burdened by beekeepers. Once we have identified costs, we need to value each issue, and we need to use some criteria of valuation. And for this project, we are going to use the next criteria. For the costs of fight, we are going to use market prices to value materials used in baits, nests, destruction, etc. But at the same time, we want to value the time employed in the construction and application of the fight method. Why? Because in economy, we need to consider an opportunity cost when we measure costs. Then time is important as well to evaluate the costs for beekeepers, especially when an important part, which is the time employed, is normally not has not any payment because they are their own owners. The costs of prevention, tariffs of training sessions, for example, and the time employed in training are going to be the criteria used for this valuation. For costs of losses and damages, we will use market prices for honey and the estimation of losses through beekeepers' declarations. But here we are going to have a problem, because normally beekeepers don't distinguish very well the losses coming from Vespa velutina attacks and other possible causes. Then we have to keep attention to this difficulty when we value these damages. Previous results from Galicia show us the different weight on losses, on costs, by the different issues that we have talked about before. For example, training in previous studies have been accounted by the 6% of the costs supported or burdened by beekeepers. The different methods have been accounted by the 88% of the total costs, and production losses only the 7%, because we only value, or were able to value, the artificial feeding for that. We didn't have results about honeybees depredation, death of colonies, and other. And among the different methods of fight, the most important was the baits, the bait trapping, and the destruction of nests. This study made in Galicia, in one of the provinces in A Coruña, shows that between 2015 and 2016, the production losses were about the 7%, were between the 7 and the 20% in value, in euros. But we cannot say which part of these losses were due to the Vespa velutina or other causes. What we can say is that the fight against Vespa was evaluated in the 21% of production value in 2016. Other results from Europe, for example, from the study made by Barbet Massin published in 2020, Barbet Massin, shows that nest destruction in France between 2006 and 2015 was estimated in 23 million euros. And the yearly cost in France, for example, was estimated in 11.9 million euros, and in Italy in 9 million euros. Then, well, in Italy we have already seen this morning that the impact were less than in France, where all the departments are affected by this. Well, then tomorrow morning we can see the different, the first results that the survey that we put in force during during this year, with the collaboration of INIAF and the NACER, and in France the university, I don't remember exactly the organism, and we want to acknowledge these colleagues from their collaboration. And well, I think that the economic impact is also important, because the invasion is due to economic concerns, is due to the international trade against the different countries. We could see that in the first presentation of this morning, that reports that Vespa velutina follow the people presence across the different geographies. Then I think that even if it is difficult to value, we have to try to do it at least by parts. If we don't, at least till we can. Then thank you very much for your attention, and sorry for my English that is not very fluent.